Well, I think we have to make even stronger efforts to engage with the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, civil society. All countries are better off when they have an active and vibrant civil society. And for us as diplomats, the civil societies represent a broader swath of the society than what we ourselves can. So I think what we get from them is a much deeper understanding of what is happening and what the feelings are, what the concerns, what the issues are right across the country on a whole host of critical issues, both for our country and globally.
Well, there's not one group that's underrepresented in the foreign policy discussions. I would draw a distinction between diplomacy, that is the practice of diplomacy, and the formulation of foreign policy. In foreign policy, that's usually governments, okay? But in the practice of diplomacy, there are many groups that are missing, or at least underutilized. Business, NGOs, university academics, journalists. They all take place on the edge. They all take part on the edge of diplomacy, but they're underrepresented inasmuch as they bring specific perceptions and expertise both to perceiving problems and then to solving them. So I would say there are a number of people missing from the practice of diplomacy. The formulation of foreign policy really still is the business of governments.
So there have been a lot of discussions around people on social media, and I think there's a complete absence or lack of thought into engaging with groups that are offline, right? These, the unusual suspects. And I think that what we need to do as we think about foreign policy and engage in this discussion is really move back from thinking about the tools we use to engage and have the people who we're looking to engage with drive that decision. If it's my grandmother in the village, what tools does she already have access to, and using that as a conduit to engage with them. So moving away from social media as a new shiny tool, but really think about who the audience is and what they already have access to, and then having that drive how we engage with them.
Well, diplomats have the tools now in their hands to reach out to the general public, to reach more people than they could ever reach before through the use of social media, through Twitter, through Facebook, through Instagram and Snapchat. And I really think diplomats should use these tools, learn how to use them. It is not easy, and people often don't know what to post. They have to have an editorial line. What kind of message will they post? But that's only the broadcasting aspect. The beauty is, on social media, you can have a dialogue. You can actually, do live Periscope broadcasts or Facebook live interviews and answer questions from the public. So I wish diplomats would really use these tools to do the monthly, kind of checkup. What's, a chat with the ambassador. Instead of having the ambassador inviting a small group to have tea with the ambassador, well, invite everyone just through social media channels. And I think this is really what diplomats should do. Open up through social media.
I think foreign policy has become much more complex than it used to be. We are facing challenges of a global nature that affect all of our people. And we cannot expect that diplomats alone can address these issues. We need support, we need to engage with the societies. Therefore, there is a whole range of actors we need to engage in, and we are very creatively operating, each of us in our own context. I do that in the context of an international organization in which I'm engaged. And to make sure that we have as many possible inputs from the civil society, but also from parliaments, from groups like women and the youth. It's important on the long-term issues to have the views of the young people, because that will be the issues that will affect their lives. Religious groups, so there are many groups of stakeholders that are becoming increasingly relevant, and we are trying to open the doors for them to find the space to share with us their views and to engage together with us in shaping the future world.
I would argue that only one significant group is probably represented in foreign policy discussions, and that it is a minority that has managed to get into foreign policy in the first place. However, what's really happened in a hyper-connected age is that the ambassadors, the diplomats, they do play a crucial role in terms of officialdom, but really everybody now becomes a representative of the group that they are perceived to represent themselves, so their perceived identity. So if a Canadian were to go abroad and behave very badly, and people got that on a mobile phone, they would then be put online for the entire world to see, and they become a representation of what Canada is, for better or for worse. And the bigger challenge here is that we really need to rethink how we foster critical thinking and digital literacy within schools before people ever become ambassadors or anything else like that, such that we become more responsible citizens and understand just how detrimental our behavior can be when documented like that.
So I think in terms of significant groups that are sort of missing from this sort of discussion, I think it's quite clear that when it comes to innovation, sometimes that is usually housed within smaller organisations, smaller businesses specifically. And so the question really is, how do you engage organisations that may be hard to find? Because obviously if they're busy innovating, creating great products, maybe taking academic research and making that more relevant to the business environment, then they may be very hard to find. And they may not have the usual capabilities to help with foreign policy, i.e. being sort of global or sort of having that sort of capacity building element to them. So then, yeah, how do you actually find those guys? I think is really quite important.
I think that people that practice foreign policy have a decision to make. Is it about representing the interests of their own nation state, or is it about making things better for humanity in the future? If it really is the latter, then the group that's not represented are all the people in countries where foreign policy practitioners are doing things to. And do they want to continue to do things to them, or do they want to work with them and bring them into the process?
To be somewhat facetious, but still also quite profound, is to suggest that the group that is most underrepresented is the group that is the least like us. And I mean it both in terms of who forms diplomats, what is the diplomatic corps, but also in terms of who the interlocutors are. Very frequently, for a variety of reasons, sometimes including physical safety and restrictions by government, diplomats talk to people who are in the capital. That might be other diplomats, certainly government officials, that is a crucial part of their remit. Perhaps other politicians, and perhaps think tank, university, NGO representatives, but often those who are in the capital. Especially in places that experience a great deal of insecurity, perhaps are caught up in civil war or insurgency, sometimes high criminal violence. It is the periphery that is deeply underrepresented, both in informing the reporting role of diplomats, but also in limiting what kind of negotiations and interlocutors diplomats can be engaged with. And the periphery can be very broad. It might not be a sliver of borderlands. It might really be most of the country beyond the capital, depending on the setting.